26 at 4 p.m. I will now call this meeting to order, and I will start with a roll call, establish a quorum. Roll call from my left, please.
Lander here.
Jacobs here.
Proper here.
We have a quorum. Citizens' comments. This is limited to 3 minutes pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.007. Members of the public may speak on any topic. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, and no action may be taken by the council. Any response from a member of the City Council to non-agenda comments is limited to a statement of specific factual information, a recitation of existing policy, or direction to staff for follow-up. We have one citizen's comments. Ms. Maris Faith, if you'll please come to the podium.
Amaris Faith, Gun Barrel City. Matt, I sincerely apologize that you even had to show up tonight. I know that this is a tough time for you. But my speech tonight is to the whole of the City Council and the mayor specifically. So good afternoon. In the last council meeting, former Councilman Burson stated Mayor Crewell had threatened him if Burson weaponized Crewell's project, Pier 334. The mayor had the opportunity to correct that with a statement of fact. He did not. Therefore, I accept it as truth. Ms. Ahern said Mayor Crewell hugged and praised her for her community outreach, but told an opposite story to his mayor's coalition. The mayor had the opportunity to correct that with a statement of fact. He did not. Therefore, I accept it as truth. In the June meeting, under the color of law, the mayor said I had stalked the city treasurer's backyard and her grandson or granddaughter. First, stalking is a legal term, and it's illegal. Words matter, Mayor, but you know that. I stalked no one, and yet you were comfortable lying from the dais in the people's house of business. In that same diatribe, still under the color of law, the mayor used his own pastor, a religious leader, in the community as political currency. Who does that? In 2025, the mayor said under color of law, I was all pollution and no solution. Another lie. I stood right over here by the door and volunteered to him and to several people who were standing around to help the city get its metrics in order, because without good metrics, you don't get good decisions. Crickets. I offered to serve on the ordinance review team. Crickets. Not one person on that dais has spoken up. That says to me that you are complicit in every lie, distortion, and threat the mayor has made, and I will hold you accountable to that. There is no greater responsibility than a citizen in the United States has than to hold its government accountable to the job that they're elected to do. And just because you think that you have the right to sit up there and own the council, to own this room, you do not. You work for us, the public, and I expect you to act like that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will respond to that with facts, since you like all these facts. As regards to Mr. Burson, when Mr. Burson sat on this, he sat on several committees and did everything he could to stop that project. I also reminded him, as a cohort and as a leader in this community, that you are bound by an oath of office that you are to do what is best for the city, not what's best for yourself. So if you take that as a threat, then so be it. But you know that that's not the truth. It's just like the dog tax. It's similar to that. You know that there's no dog tax, but you're very, very clever, and I will say this, you're very clever at using words to make sure that people understand and you grab their attention. Okay, so as far as the two ladies that said that I've had a lot to do with ruining their business, those two individuals have quite a history on the lake of different run-ins with different business owners, different situations. Before I was here, I know for a fact that the one lady, Miss Ahrens, gave the city just nothing but sheer unmitigated trouble for a long, long time. I know for a fact, because I've spoken to Maybank ISD board members, she was also a very, very, I would say, destructive force in that also. So with all of that being said, when you do things like that and you say things like that and you treat people that way, you can say that I have that much power. I'm very flattered that you think that I do, but I do not have that kind of power. I have never used that also. You are more than welcome to come to one of the mayors' coalitions, and you can ask any one of the mayors if I've ever used any words against either one of those people. You may find yourself slightly embarrassed, but you're more than welcome to come and discuss that with any of those. In fact, our next one, there'll be a discussion from TRWD and also from Trent Ashby about some of the upcoming things that are going on with our session, House session coming up in a few months in Austin. So you're more than welcome. That's what we discuss. We've discussed things that Colby, our fire chief, came to me about, mental health issues that we've had with a lot of our police officers and our first responders. We've discussed things of that nature. We've had our county commissioner, Ms. Spivey, and also Mr. Tooley come and speak about drainage issues. Those are things that we all deal with from time to time. We've had State Representative Keith Bell come and speak to some of the things that they're trying to do in the House right now. They're trying to make sure that a lot of the big cities in Texas don't control the narrative for some of the rural communities and bringing back the power to some of the local communities and their government so that we're able to conduct our governments the way we see fit and the way our constituents would have things done. We're not Houston, we're not Austin, we're not any of those places. We're different, okay? And our situation especially. So those are the things we tackle when you come to those. You're also more than welcome to speak to any of the people that have come from the Monitor. They've taken various notes and videos, and so I love it when you challenge me with things like that, and I think it's great. I'm very sad that you can't have a dialogue. I mean, I will say one thing about Ron Helms, and I'll say this about Otto. When we spoke afterwards, after the meeting, we had a great dialogue. We had a really fair and honest conversation. It's a shame that you can't do that with me, but you have refused to want to do that. And so all of those things that you say you've wanted to do, metrics and things, you've never once actually come to any of us and said, this is exactly, metrics, that's like saying I want to help. You've never given specifics on anything. You've never done anything like that. I don't know if you're just holding it back or you don't really have anything. I would be the first to tell you right now, my door is open. If you want to come in and you want to have a conversation with me, I'll be home at 12:30 tomorrow. If you want to have a conversation, we could do it at 1 or 1:30 in my office. I'd love to have dialogue, but you do not want to have dialogue. I saw some of the information that you and another gentleman had, and he said that's the reason he was not going to deal with you anymore because you wouldn't have dialogue. But I had dialogue with those people. Now, you and I may never agree, and that's fine. That's okay. But to attack people, and you have done. You've done some terrible things, and you know that. And I get it. I don't think you're a terrible person whatsoever, okay? I take you as your word that you are a Christian, okay? That you're a conservative, which is what I ran on. But at the same time, you can't attack people the way you do on the internet and then expect people to want to sit down with you and have a legitimate conversation. I, on the other hand, do. I want to have and we can talk about anything under the sun. And if you want to bring a recorder, you can bring a recorder. You can do anything you want. I've got nothing to hide. But I'm just telling you, I'm not going to sit here and watch you do that. And by the way, your friend, when she got done, it is a privilege for us to be able to speak for our 3 minutes. She sat right there in the front row, and when she got done, she gave me the finger and said, F you. Now, if you want to make your business successful, Do you think, number one, you shouldn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance or the invocation, whether you believe in either one of those, out of respect? These people do more to harm their own businesses than I ever could, but no one wants to be accountable. I don't have anything to do with any of that. The only thing that I've ever said about any one of those people is information that was public record already, and I was asked by a gentleman who was the mayor pro tem at one time. He said, can you help out a friend of mine who's on the Rotary? And I did. I gave him the information I had. I never poor-mouthed anybody. I gave the exact information that was public record. So it's okay. This comes with the job. You're not always going to be everybody's cup of tea. I get it. And that's fine. It's okay. But I challenge you sometime, instead of just attacking me and always wanting to get rid of me, try working with me sometime. You've never done that. Maybe that is really the answer. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. No. All right, next, 4A, a discussion regarding the fiscal year 2026-2027 budget. And our sponsor on this will be our interim city manager, Mr. Norwood.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a follow-up from our previous budget work session. There was some information that was presented by council to staff. We've gone back and looked at that. The one item that was probably the most telling, may not be the right word, but the one that was, I think, the highest priority was a pay plan for police and fire, but also all other employees. Probably the one that is the most, has the most sense of urgency is a pay plan for police. Fire is usually lumped in together with police, so it's a police and fire pay plan, which we have addressed. Police is usually the one that has the higher turnover. There's a lot of competition. You've got Dallas with charter requirements that state X number of police officers are required to be on board. But it's not a Texas issue. It's throughout the country, it's very challenging to hire police officers. And especially when you look at the starting pay of a police officer in Gun Barrel, it's about $52,000 and some change. That is extremely challenging. One, to get qualified people to show up. Two, anybody with any experience. And if you put somebody through the academy that takes a few months, then they get done, and then they're with the field training officer for 14, 15, 16 weeks. Then they get out. Well, once they get about a year and a half, 2 years experience, they're gone. And they're going for much higher pay. We realize and understand we can't compete with the Arlingtons and the Grand Prairies and the Friscos and McKinneys, but we've got to make some steps. And I think what is being suggested here, and again, this is not a final, we're not making any final decisions today. That comes next month, but this is, I think, a good approach. It moves that starting police officer to about 56,000 and some change, so it's a nice bump. Athens is around 62, 65,000. We can't get there. So we have, I think, making a good step that we're moving right even, maybe a little ahead of Kaufman, but it's just a real challenge when you look at our funding structure. That presents some additional challenges as well. We've also addressed on the firefighter side and the captains. We've moved those, probably not as far as we would like to, but it is a step in the right direction. It's just the fire department was so far behind to get them to a level of competitiveness was not attainable with our current budget. But it does move the needle. It does have a pretty significant impact on those individuals. We also looked at this pay plan goes from 20 steps down to 10 steps. And 20 steps is just not realistic. So the pay plan has changed. We've tried to make it a little simpler to understand. But you gotta, when you look at police and fire, they don't work the 2,080-hour schedule that non-police and fire work. They're working 2,200 hours or 23 or 24. You got firefighters working 48 hours on, 96 hours off, so 2 on, 4 off. Police officers working 12-hour shifts, and there's also some required Fair Labor Standards Act overtime that's built into their compensation. So police and fire is a lot trickier. But we did look at non-sworn employees, and it's real tough in a small city because so many of our folks wear different hats. You know, city secretary may take on 2 or 3 duties. The city treasurer takes on other duties. So you start looking at, well, am I going to compare to this position or that position? So it does present some challenges, but I think it's we just need a little bit more time on non-police and fire to really look at so that we're comparing apples to apples. So by this time next year, I think the city will have a very good pay plan for non-police and fire. But again, the sense of urgency was police and fire, but we didn't forget about the all other employees or non-police and fire. We looked at increasing the pay of our part-timers. We have part-timers that are barely getting paid $13 an hour. Those are getting moved up to $15. And when you're in a small city, part-time employees play key roles. We always talk about full-time, but part-timers play a very critical role. We also looked at some of the laborer positions, whether it's parks or public works or throughout the city, that their pay was in the $15 an hour range. I mean, for a full-time employee, I mean, that is tough. A lot of cities in the state have passed ordinances, if you will, that a living wage begins at $17 an hour or higher. So we've moved a lot of those employees, and there's not a lot, but there's several employees in those at the lowest of the low on the pay side. We've moved those from $15 to $17 an hour. You know, I don't think it's anything that is a real novel idea. It's something we should be doing. These folks wear a lot of different hats, get called on to do a lot of things. You may be working in public works, but you're going to be working the weekends on a special event, or you're going to be up here maintaining City Hall, and it's not just a park issue, it's other. So again, they get moved around. So I think what you have before you is reasonable. A police officer, I think about all, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mickey, but they're in the 7 to 8% pay increase. The firefighters are about the same. Captains are a little bit more, but again, we just couldn't get to where we needed to be there. But it is a nice step, and it is a step in the right direction. So, you know, I've been asked, well, Steve, how did we get there? And I want to say this very carefully, because I don't want anybody walking out of these chambers thinking that we're de-emphasizing anything, because we're not. But we have authorized strength in the police department of 15 police officers. We didn't go back and look, but it's been years since we've been at full strength. The turnover, because of pay and just the whole law enforcement profession in general, has been a real challenge. So we haven't been at full strength in years. I took one vacant position and eliminated that use the funds from that to spread this around. So it's not going to be a situation where, oh my gosh, we're eliminating police officers. We never had those police officers out on the street to begin with. I just hate to tie up an appropriation for no reason, because we're not being able to fill those bodies. And by getting where we're getting closer, I think we've got about, 2 vacancies at this point. And we maybe bounce between 2 and 1, but at the end of the day, that's going to also help reduce some of our overtime, because when you're carrying 4 and 5 vacancies in police officers, we're not going to put 1 officer out there in the evenings. That's just, we're just not going to do that. So that costs a lot of overtime. And we're not talking about overtime to take care of special events. Those factor in, but the bulk of it is just covering shifts so we don't have somebody out there. They've got state required training. They do get sick. They are entitled to some vacation time. So you got to fill in those gaps. So that's how we're paying that. The kind of for all the other employees, there is an existing position that was funded and budgeted in the community center. And I'm not opposed to it at all. That's not the point. I think it was probably budgeted about a year too early. It was almost putting the cart before the horse. The community center needs a long, hard look at programming. Do we need to be open 6 days a week? Is there a demand for Monday and Tuesday evenings? And I'm saying these questions kind of rhetorically because I don't know, and I don't think anybody knows the answer to that. But we can't have this build it and they will come. We've got to set it from the standpoint of programming and let programming and interest drive those hours, drive, the times, why are we closed from 2 to 4? Do we need to open at 9 o'clock in the morning? There's just some things like that we need to look at. And we need to do a better job, and Brooke and I have talked about this, of she needs to, and she's more than willing to drive that programming element. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. We tried it. But we've got to try. And so we're going to put a lot of emphasis on social media, on our city website, to drive that, whether it's goat yoga, whether it's square dancing, line dancing, or, crafts for children. We've got to make that initiative. So we use the funding from that. Again, maybe here next year, asking for the same position to reinstate that because we've got such demand. But I can't sit here and tell you today that there's that kind of demand for that facility. But I think we can get there, and I know Brooke has some really good ideas. In fact, we talked at length today and gave her the thumbs up to move on one. So that's how we got there. Is that ideal? I'm not going to say yes, that's the perfect world, but I think it works. Again, we're not cutting back police. You didn't have those folks to begin with because we've been at such a challenge to hire and retain. But I do think moving those officers from 52 to 56 is going to retain those officers that they're going to think twice. And I think it's also going to put us in a much stronger competitive nature to attract officers. So again, that was probably the big fundamental difference. And we look at, and there were a handful of others we looked at from a competitive nature, that we've got to be competitive. And when I say competitive, I'm not talking about competitive where they're just a couple of $1,000s off. They're $10,000 and $15,000 and $20,000 off. So again, we're making some bumps. And as I said, the previous time, this is not a 1 year and we're done. Okay, all of our problems are solved. This is going to be a multi-year facet. We didn't get here in 1 year, and we're not going to dig out of it in 1 year either. And it may take 3 years. But I think if we show our employees that we're making steps and there's a plan and we're working toward it, I think that sends a strong message, and that's what we want to do. And again, and not to belabor it, but we don't manufacture anything. We don't develop new product lines. We're in the business of serving people and our residents. And it's not just our citizens. If you're a non-resident, police and fire is going to respond to you no differently than they would a local resident. So that's what we do. And 75% of our budget is people. So, you know, so we've got to be very protective of that and put ourselves in the best spot to attract good quality workers. I don't want somebody here for a year and a half and they leave. And they decide, well, I can go 20 miles down the road and get a $10,000 a year raise. So that's kind of the overview. We did add in, there's some monies in there that, and I call it a placeholder. If you look in like public enhancement, if you look at some of the other funds, and I think Mickey's going to have some information to give you, we just put placeholders in there because we don't have a hardcore cost. But at the previous budget meeting, we talked about lots for the ball field. You know, are there grants out there? Are there solar options we can look at? So we've plugged in some money there. We're looking at fire hydrants. We're looking at some of those issues that have been brought up. All of that can change if we get into it. You say, well, I don't want to spend $50,000 on fire hydrants. Can we spend 75 or 25? That's all. But we need to get those funds appropriated. You know, and again, there's other funds through their hotel, motel. We collect about $180,000 a year. A big part of that is July Fest. But we have other events that, you know, that we contribute to. We need to take a hard look at those. I mean, is that getting the, you know, return on our investment, so to speak? I mean, the goal of the hotel motel funds is to put, you know, heads in beds. And we got to keep that, you know, top of mind as we go through this. So, again, this is not decision time. You know, that will come next month. But I think we've heard you. We've added some of the items you had mentioned. I know Mickey has put those in there. At the end of the day, there's still about 45,000 left. Had a good suggestion from Jennifer that maybe an option, just keep that money there. There's nothing that obligates us to go spend that and look at next year. Yep. You know, at mid-year. So come March, take a look at that. There's some other, maybe it's one-time capital items that we can take a look at. Or if there's things you want to appropriate, whether it's spending additional dollars on property maintenance issues, you know, whatever the case may be. But this past weekend, I had a little extra time on my hands, so I really went through our sales tax in the last 5 years, and it's almost identical year after year. Your big months are the quarter months, which a lot of taxpayers pay on the quarter. You get your, you know, your Encore and other utilities pay on the quarter. It's also revolving around Christmas. It revolves around spring break, obviously the summer months. February sales are awful. The February sales in every city is awful because people get their credit card bills and see Christmas shopping and say, oh my, we're cutting back. So February dips pretty healthy. There's nothing in there that I see that is of concern. I mean, it is literally almost a mirror image the last 5 years. So, you know, our projection on sales tax is very conservative. It's about 3%, which historically we've done that and then some. So I think we're in a good position. You know, there's a lot of cities, and it's not a bad approach. They budget not at 100% of salaries. They budget at 95, 96% because they know there's turnover throughout the year. So they take, you know, they take that into consideration. Well, I like to have a little, as I call them, a lever in case some of our revenues don't come in. I've got that built-in, cushion there. So, again, I think it's very reasonable. Department heads have all had input and influence. There's not too much, if anything, that gets past Mickey. So she's definitely on top of it. Both chiefs have been incredible to work with and understand there's a bigger picture. It's not just my playpen. It's all the other cities to work with. We understand the needs in the fire department on equipment, but this is not the year to do that. But we've got time. There's no law, there's nothing right now that mandates that we have to have a 75-foot ladder or whatever aerial capabilities. So we're in good shape, but, we definitely don't need to take our eyes off the road. I mean, I think we're going in a positive direction and have a good story to tell. And we do have a unique challenge that a lot of other cities don't have, but we also have, a lake, which is, that's a huge benefit for us. But, it's like I heard earlier today, we just want to make sure it stays full. But, we don't have a lot of control over some things. So with that, if there's any questions, you've got a copy of the pay plan. We did move some folks in different ranges that put them out if they were too far down below on a pay range, moving them up a grade or two just to be more competitive and with other folks that's kind of in their peer group. So with that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions, or Mickey can answer those as well.
Council, are you guys comfortable staying here? Would you like to move down to the tables to discuss, or is everybody good here?
I think we're good.
Everybody good? Okay. Questions for Mickey? Anybody?
Yes. Let me get to the page. I think most of my stuff is just like explanations, right? Administration budget worksheet, looking at the professional development fund. I'm all for it. I love professionalism. I'm just curious.
That was a city manager's suggestion. Would you like to explain?
And what we did with that is our training budgets throughout all the departments is pretty low.
Correct.
And I'm a firm believer, you can't do everything virtual. You can't do everything online. There's so much that you learn from other contacts that you meet from other cities. And so I put about 15,000 aside, but I'm just not divvying it out to different departments. I want to retain some control, but also this training is not just for your mandatory 1 or 2 day. It's something that it may be an opportunity. It may be something that's very specific to, communities like Gun Barrel. So, but it doesn't mean we're going to spend it all, but I want to be very careful with that, and it just doesn't get spent in routine things that we should be doing anyway.
No, that's awesome, and I can attest to that. That TML training I went to was phenomenal. I think I've got about 5 pages of notes, and I'm really excited to get into it. And it was great to network and meet other cities and kind of see what they have going on compared to what we got going on. And I will tell you, it's the same stuff. It's the same stuff everywhere. Okay. Sorry, let me find my next page. Did we discuss police overtime?
Yes. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons we're trying to fill those positions and give them a pay raise, so we're not losing those people. Therefore, it cuts down on the overtime.
Okay, okay.
And Chief and I have had that conversation, and he fully understands, but we also understand there's situations that happen throughout the year that you just can't predict. And if we end up getting down 4, I don't care what we do, there's going to be,
Police on the streets.
yeah, there's going to be overtime demands, but
From what I understand.
we all understand the severity and the need to get that money.
Well, from what I understood is most of the overtime this year had been training new officers, correct? And I believe most of them are trained
Right.
with, I mean, sorry, Chief.
We still have one that's in training, we still have one position that's open.
Okay.
But for a long period of time there, we were about 4 short.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
had 2 in training.
I remember.
You know, so that training puts an officer in a car with an officer for 16 weeks if they're straight out of the academy. The last 2 we hired have experience, came from other agencies, so their training's been cut down to 4, maybe 6 weeks.
Awesome.
Okay, so that helps us out there. But as soon as we get them trained, somebody's leaving and going somewhere else. You know,
Right.
so it's just been a revolving door.
Okay.
And it's a safety issue. You can't put just one officer out there. We
Absolutely.
can't do that, so.
I just wanted to make sure we were addressing the problem. So it's
Oh, for sure.
pay scale and other things.
So with this proposal, we'll be putting the discussions about a fire truck on hold.
Yes.
What about the fire marshal?
That's on hold as well.
I'm probably going to say something. I'm trying to formulate it as I talk. I'm sorry. I like the emphasis of verifying things that are necessary within our budget, right? Because we are so tight, and there are things that we need to get but are unable to due to, funds. I would just I would ask that we make sure any remodels be as fiscally responsible with those funds and be sure that they're a necessity. I think that's all I'll say on that.
Okay. Understood and agree.
Mr. Lander?
Y'all don't let me hog the floor.
No, you're good.
I don't have any other questions right now.
Okay.
Mickey, on the building code enforcement worksheet, I know I saw somewhere that we were spending 15,000 for property cleanup. Was that in the special funds?
We put 35,000 in property cleanup and 5,500 in mowing cleanup.
In the special funds?
No, it's in the general fund.
Okay.
Do you see it? It shows, so mid-year, we had a mid-year adjustment, budget adjustment, where we added to property cleanup, and that brought it up to 45,000. They are not going to spend that.
Right.
So they increased it but decreased it. It's 35,000. And then if they need more mid-year, and that may be something we talk about, but
We can allocate that then?
yeah.
I mean, I like to have the ability to address things as they come up. I like your idea of making sure the money is there so we can use it, but it's also a little bit of fluidity. Is we don't have bids, we don't have things set in stone on certain projects, and we can make adjustments, north or south from that number.
Well, and I'll say this, I think they've done a great job of making sure we have every base covered. We're not necessarily using all of those monies in certain areas. But you do have to allocate that. I think that's one of the things that I know that I've really learned in spending time with Mickey, but also I'm going to blow the horn of Steve Norwood. Is he's really made this much simpler for us, and it's much easier to follow and track. And I think that's really important. It's important for everybody, the citizens, us, everyone. But I think we've done a really good job of allocating enough monies that if we have an issue, we're able to draw from that. And again, I think it's really prudent on Ms. Jacobs' part to say, we have that money. There's no need to necessarily spend that money. We hold that as a rainy day fund, and if something comes up, and then we at least have something. We've got something in our back pocket, and so I thank you for that, Steve. This has been a much. I personally will just say this. I think this has been a much easier transition going through the budget this time.
I like to see streetlights and hydrants on here with a intention to search for grant funding assistance on that. I might push back and request if we can do anything to look deeper into the fire marshal position. I've seen some of these fires in just these past 2 weeks. I know y'all probably saw on Facebook about the smoke shop just down the road in Maybank. Things are very dry, and I'm not sure the whole system in place for reaching out to the county or whatever marshal's service we outsource to, but I think that could be a good asset and help our firefighters meet the standards that they need to acquire.
Okay. Definitely, we'll keep that.
And those are things, again, that we can look at the mid-year budget. I mean, that's,
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for putting all of this together. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Any other questions? Good, Matt?
Yeah, I think I'm good. No decisions today.
No decisions today.
You can continue to ask questions, send in questions, clarify. things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've still got several weeks to go. So.
Yeah. It's a process, but I think we're making a great process. And again, this format, I think, has made it much easier for everyone to wrap their heads around what we got and what we have. And again, I say this again, we're a very unique situation, right? We do not have Avalon tax. We do, but it's zero. It's set at zero. And so we are unique in that. But I think we do a wonderful job, and I thank Mickey again for all her expertise. But she's worth every penny. She does a great job with this, and she's been at this a long time. And I will say, Steve may get mad at me, and Mickey may blush, but I know he's been doing this a long time, and he said that he has not been around a city treasurer as thorough and as correct on her assessments and on the numbers as Mickey has. So we're very thankful to have you, Mickey.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, and maybe this is a question for our city secretary. I know we've got some notifications coming up. What is the timeline? When do we need to, I guess, get this in pretty much a recommended final form so it goes out publicly? Then I know council will vote on, we'll have a public hearing and approval of the budget, September 25th, correct?
September 22nd, it'll come before you, the budget, the tax rate, public hearing, all that. Mickey and I today discussed the public notice will be published September 6th in the paper, and that's the legal requirement that we.
And that's the 15 days?
It'll be,
Yeah.
10, no less than 10, no more than 30.
Okay. Okay, so there's time, but if you want to, have some comments, you still got a little time before we send that out is pretty much,
But what you have in front of you are budget worksheets. This is not a proposed budget. once we figure out what you want me to do, we'll then go forward with the proposed budget. This was just a worksheet to get us there.
And I do want to emphasize, it's unfortunate, but also a blessing, that we're restricted with the monies that we have, right? We can't get it to fall out of the sky. But in having this, to make sure that we're detailed as possible with every dollar spent, it's a little bit of a blessing, and that's something I can see now coming into council, is where every dollar gets spent. Obviously I'm speaking a little bit broad, but it's great to see that we're, responsible with everybody's money.
Yep.
Conservatives, yes.
And it's always going to be a challenge when you're in a situation like we are, when you're sales tax based, to get every pothole, to get all the streets that we want done, to get all the
Ditches,
things we want to
right.
ditch. It's a lot, and you understand that. And so we all have to work together, and we have to do a better job, I'll say this, of getting the word out to our constituents,
Yep.
and letting them know, listen, I've always said this, I don't email, I don't text, I don't do anything like that. I always return a phone call. And that way you can have that dialogue, you can have that conversation.
Yep.
And just explain it, because a lot of people don't know exactly how it works, right? And how those monies are allocated. And to get back to one of the things you were saying, I probably should have addressed it then, but like when you were talking about the monies that are set aside for tuition and education, things like that, well, that grant writing is a very big deal for us.
Absolutely.
Right? There's a lot of free money out there that we have access to, but we have to find someone in our department, and we have that.
Yep.
But we have to educate them and give them all the tools, give them the education, and set them up for success to help us with that. I know Frank Vaughn did an incredible job on parks. I know, Shelby, you can speak to this. I mean, he's a very, very bright guy. You want to learn something, come to a Parks Board meeting. The guy is really sharp, and the Parks Board has done an incredible job. They have great leadership. Laura does an incredible job. Mrs. Damiano did a great job. But that grant writing is a really big thing, and there's no reason why we can't be doing that. But again, as Steve said too, yeah, we have a lot of our people that wear several hats.
Yep.
And there's a reason for that, and that's why they are so valuable, and why the pay is where it is, and the scale at where it is. I've always said this: you can have the biggest ad valorem in the world and have a whole ton of money in the bank account, but if you don't have the right people providing those services, it really doesn't matter.
Yep.
And we have an incredible team of first responders and staff and people that do, and volunteers, the beautification committee. I mean, all these people do a great job, but that grant writing's a really big thing. And you've hit on it a couple times. I know you and I have
Yep.
we've had those conversations, lengthy, you and I. That's just, we have to take advantage of that. We really do.
It's a little bit upfront, but the reward is very promising.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. So,
I do have one thing. Under the administration budget, the way that this worksheet is written out, it is currently only the city manager's salary. We are discussing putting the city planner / grant writer underneath administration. So currently, those monies are located under the Building Code Enforcement Fund, and I will just transfer those from Building Code Enforcement to administration. So you're going to see a change there, but I'm not adding anything other than I'm just moving those monies.
Thank you for the heads up. I would have freaked out. I'm just kidding.
Awesome.
I think that's a good idea, though.
further discussion? Having none, this meeting's adjourned.